35 years later, Strange New Worlds Season 3's premiere did Star Trek, TNG's Cliffhanger masterpiece better. When Star Trek: The Next Generation aired The Best of Both Worlds in 1990, it redefined what television cliffhangers could be. Commander Riker facing down as assimilated captain, uttering that legendary fire, became a pop culture shockwave that rippled across the summer. It was the moment Star Trek grew up, proving it could deliver serialized, emotionally charged television without losing its moral center. 35 years later, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds Season 3's premiere delivered something no one expected. A spiritual successor to that classic two-parter, and arguably, a version that did it even better. The episode fused the tension, emotional depth, and moral ambiguity of the best of both worlds with modern storytelling sophistication, stunning visuals, and a deeper understanding of its characters' psychology. It wasn't just another Trek cliffhanger, it was the moment that proved Strange New Worlds had become the true heir to the next generation's legacy. A bold frontier for Pike. From its first season, Strange New Worlds has celebrated the optimism and adventure of the original series. But Captain Christopher Pike's story has always been haunted by one thing: fate. He knows his future. He knows the chair, the accident, and the sacrifice that await him. That knowledge gave him a unique kind of calm, a leader's serenity in the face of doom. But the Season 3 premiere, Through the Gorn Darkly, broke that serenity in a way no episode has before. Facing an impossible tactical situation against the Gorn, an enemy more ruthless and unpredictable than any Borg cube, Pike is pushed to his emotional limit. His faith in diplomacy and morality are tested when the Enterprise is cornered in a nebula, with a Federation colony hanging in the balance. The episode plays out like a mirror to the best of both worlds. Where Riker faced the unimaginable choice to destroy his own captain, Pike faces the haunting possibility that his compassion might doom an entire species. The Federation may not have the Borg, but it has the Gorn, and in this episode, the Gorn feel like the best of both worlds' spiritual successors, an existential threat that turns morality into a liability, moment that froze us like 1990, just like the best of both worlds ended on Riker's fire. Through the Gorn Darkly ends on its own unforgettable image. The Enterprise surrounded by Gorn vessels, Pike giving the order that will either save millions or start a war. The final line, "Engage the dark," is Strange New Worlds' equivalent to Riker's fire, and it lands with the same gut-punching finality. The camera lingers on Pike's face, the hum of the bridge falls silent, and for a split second you can feel the same audience-wide gasp that defined the best of both worlds. But here's what makes it better. Strange New Worlds doesn't rely solely on shock. It relies on character. The episode earns its tension not from the mechanics of the situation, but from the emotional and ethical weight behind Pike's decision. Riker fired on his captain because he had no choice. Pike, however, must choose to step into darkness, knowing that every Starfleet principle he holds dear could shatter with that one command. It's not just a cliffhanger, it's a moral crisis. The emotional depth TNG could only hint at. In 1990, The Best of Both Worlds was a masterpiece of tension, but by the standards of modern serialized storytelling, its emotional exploration feels restrained. It was groundbreaking for its time, but limited by the episodic format. Strange New Worlds, on the other hand, has spent 2 full seasons deepening its characters' emotional lives, from Spock's struggles with humanity to Lon Noonien Singh's trauma and Number One's quiet strength. When these people face the impossible, we know what it costs them. That's the key difference. The Best of Both Worlds asked, what will Riker do? Through the Gorn Darkly asks, what will this decision do to Pike and everyone who follows him? Una's moment of doubt, Spock's fury at the Gorn's logic, Lon's personal history with the species, they all layer into the episode's climax like a symphony of conflicting emotions. The bridge scene isn't just command versus chaos, it's a collision of belief systems. This emotional realism is what makes Strange New Worlds Season 3 opener hit harder. It's not just Starfleet versus the Gorn. It's compassion versus survival, idealism versus fear, and Pike, standing in the middle, has to decide which version of himself will live on. A modern masterpiece of suspense, what made The Best of Both Worlds timeless wasn't just its writing, it was its pacing. It stretched tension like a violin string, making every pause, every look, every sound of a Borg tractor beam feel monumental. Strange New Worlds takes that same principle and modernizes it with cinematic flair. The direction by Chris Fisher, whose visual storytelling has drawn comparisons to Blade Runner 2049, turns the nebula sequence into a ballet of light and shadow. Every frame feels alive with danger. The score by Nami Melamed mirrors Ron Jones' iconic TNG music, but builds on it, using haunting, minimalist strings that echo the Borg tension, but with a biological, almost predatory pulse that feels pure Gorn. Even the sound design pays homage. The faint hiss of the Gorn ships, the heartbeat-like pulse of the nebula, it's all deliberate, creating an atmosphere of dread that rivals and surpasses what TNG achieved with far less technology. And when the final order comes, engage the dark, the music drops out entirely. Silence becomes the new fire. Why it works now, and why it couldn't then? In 1990, audiences were shocked by Riker's decision because they'd never seen a Star Trek cliffhanger like that before. But serialized storytelling wasn't the norm. When Part 2 aired months later, it resolved the tension neatly, brilliantly, yes, but without long-term consequences. Strange New Worlds doesn't play by those rules. The writers understand that modern audiences crave not just suspense, but continuity. The Gorn storyline has been simmering since Season 1, evolving into a slow-burning allegory about fear, communication, and the dangers of misunderstanding an alien species. So when the cliffhanger hits, it's not a gimmick, it's the culmination of years of build-up. Every Gorn egg, every lost crew member, every moral argument between Spock and Pike feeds into this moment. In other words, the best of both worlds invented the event. Strange New Worlds perfected the arc. The legacy of a cliffhanger. It's impossible to overstate how the best of both worlds influenced Strange New Worlds. You can see it in the rhythm, the confidence, and the way the camera lingers on characters' faces rather than ships. It taught Trek how to make emotion its greatest weapon. But the Season 3 premiere does something even bolder. It uses that legacy to question what Star Trek has become. Are its heroes still explorers, or are they now soldiers forced to fight in an ever-darkening galaxy? Pike's moral crisis becomes a commentary on the evolution of the franchise itself. The original series dreamed of utopia. The next generation defended it. Strange New Worlds asks if it can still survive. That's the brilliance of this new best of both worlds. It's not just recreating tension, it's interrogating it. It's asking whether Star Trek's optimism can endure in a universe that's learned too much fear. The new summer of waiting. When The Best of Both Worlds aired, fans spent the summer of 1990 theorizing in magazines and fan clubs. Who would die? How could Picard return? In 2025, the waiting looks different, but the feeling is the same. Reddit threads explode, TikTok breakdowns dissect Pike's every glance, and fans debate whether engage the dark means war or strategy. And that's what makes this moment magical. For the first time in decades, Star Trek has recreated the collective suspense that once defined it. It's made waiting exciting again. It's made uncertainty fun. The verdict, the new gold standard of Trek cliffhangers. The best of both worlds will always be the template, the benchmark for how to do a cliffhanger right. But Strange New Worlds Season 3's premiere did something Star Trek hasn't done in 35 years. It built on that foundation and dared to ask more of its characters and its audience. It didn't just deliver shock, it delivered soul. It didn't just raise stakes, it deepened hearts. And